Hey team, I wanted to share a quick idea while it's fresh in my mind. Three parts altogether. One would be like the family stories and like their dreams, taking a risk, actualizing your potential, the story of the co-founders' dreams and our team's dreams of going after a big goal. The third part would be at the very end, Jill's thinking about it. Around sorry. Around thinking different and going after your dream, even when the odds aren't in your favor. If who we are enables dreams, I think it'd be awesome to end with something like that, aspirational to the viewer to inspire them. So that's my story. I did not think I'd be crying on camera like this. I don't know if I ever have.
To change tack now with focus. It's been exactly 5 years since Haiti was hit by a devastating earthquake in which more than 200,000 people lost their lives.
I didn't really think I'd get into the nonprofit field, but I found myself in Haiti with my best friend, Mike. A few years after a massive earthquake had just devastated the country. What I saw arrested me completely. It had been 5 years since the earthquake, but it looked like it had been 5 weeks. Tents that were barely held together with sticks and strings for miles. Families living huddled under blue tarps with the names of well-known charities printed across the side. And the ones who were supposedly helping, it wasn't working. And I kept thinking, this isn't fair. This isn't how it's supposed to be. As an entrepreneur, I had never studied international development or extreme poverty. I literally had no idea what I was doing. Fortunately, Allie did.
My grandmother, who I never met, had mental illness issues that led to her kicking my mother out of the house at age 11. I grew up hearing horror stories of my mother growing up in foster care, growing up in group homes. Terrible stories in those places that just made it untenable for her to live in. So then she emancipated herself when she was 16 years old, and she was working 3 jobs. She was still trying to, make school happen. She worked incredibly hard, became a registered nurse. Thankfully, we always had a roof over our heads, but we were in Section 8 housing. Thank goodness for that program, because in certain hard times, I was able to have, and my little sister was able to have a roof over our heads. Fast forward, I become a teacher. I did Teach for America. It was one of the most significant experiences of my life. Far too many of my students were homeless. I had never really connected the dots. My mother's experience, my own experience, the type of housing that we were in, and then seeing these 11 and 12-year-olds, their attendance decreased, their school performance decreased. If Maslow's hierarchy, our base of the pyramid needs are not met, food, water, shelter, how can you take advantage of any other opportunity? I was in my classroom when I got some text messages, and my mom was like, "I'm really not feeling well. I'm going to the emergency room now. I think you should come home." She was diagnosed with a gastric cancer. They never identified the exact type of cancer. Honestly, the thing that makes my mother's passing still hard to recover from is that it was very sudden. We were in the room. We just held her hand, and then she took her last breath. My sister was 12. All of a sudden, there's these conversations, who's gonna take care of my little sister? In addition to dealing with my mother's passing, there was this very young girl. I had to focus on the highest paying job I could possibly get. There was a supply chain company that was very well paying. I went from focusing on inequity and social justice and education, things that I was deeply passionate about, to success looked like shaving a couple of seconds off of shipping times. What that experience did afford me was stability for my sister and I. And I had a lot of time in the evenings on the weekends to focus on other things. I would spend most of my time outside of work focused on housing, social entrepreneurship, thinking about things like how philanthropy could be higher impact, how we could do more with less. One of the meetups was organized by a young man named Matthew Marshall.
That was kind of just a serendipitous meeting where Allie came to a meetup that I was hosting, where Brett was presenting the idea of New Story.
I didn't really have any goals of starting an organization, and frankly, I had had some bad previous experiences with other charities. I thought there was just a lack of transparency, accountability, and a really big lack in innovation. From an entrepreneurial perspective, those are problems that could be solved.
After the session, I just went up and started asking Brett questions.
Questions about international development, how you were thinking about working with partners.
How we'll use local labor and local material.
It was clear in that moment that, one, are these people just really passionate and really knowledgeable and really aligned values-wise, but two, we have an opportunity to actually do something. I had been trying to actually get into social impact work at the intersection of technology and social impact, and so to have this idea and these people was such an exciting opportunity.
We come from very different backgrounds, we're very different people, yet we cared about similar things and wanted to have a similar approach.
On one hand, we were definitely passionate about the human problem of safety and shelter.
We also had a similar outlook on company building.
It just felt like 3 young, passionate underdogs that were just obsessed with working on this idea. From scratch, we could design the DNA of our organization. And that was why we called it New Story. We wanted to create a news story in not just the families that we get to partner with, but also a new story in how we think about traditional charity.
Before we talk about what happened next, let's break this down a little.
From the beginning, we had a big dream.
Make a difference in housing for those who need it most.
But as we started to put our plans together, the dream got even bigger.
We didn't have it all figured out,
But we knew we wanted to do things differently. Specifically in 3 critical areas. First, transparency. After visiting Haiti, I learned that over $500 million in aid had been donated to one organization alone. In the end, only 6 homes were built. 6 from $500 million in donations. On the surface, many charities announce that more than 90% of public donations go to direct support. But when $500 million mysteriously vanishes into thin air with so little impact to show for it, something's clearly off. Transparency matters, period.
we also knew we needed to prioritize dignity. The more we looked into the shelter crisis, the more we learned it wasn't as simple as making sure everyone has a roof over their head. In many cases, homes were being built, but without any input from the homeowners, with little consideration for their wants and their needs. Without homeowner input, these communities become ghost towns, built with the best intentions, but failing to thrive. These homes often came with impossible trade-offs like being located miles from the markets, the schools, and jobs families depend on for survival. As a result, the community becomes abandoned, each home serving as a grave for the hopes and dreams these families once had.
Last but not least, innovation. All over the world, we saw industries being disrupted, overhauled, massively changed by the impact of new technologies. The biggest exception? Housing, and specifically affordable housing. Aside from farming, construction technology is the least digitized industry in the world. But the shelter crisis is arguably the single biggest problem we're facing on a global scale today.
As we started to piece together our big dreams for News Story, we knew we had to tackle these challenges.
We didn't know if it would work,
Or if people would think we were crazy.
But we knew we had to try. So we started with the 100% model.
every dollar you donate goes straight to building a home.
And you get to see exactly which community you're helping to build.
Next, we learned how to incorporate feedback from families into every community we build.
Prioritizing the use of local labor to empower these communities along the way.
And innovation? More on that later. First, back to 3 kids with no experience and a big dream.
Welcome back to Bay Sunday. Well, Haiti is back in the headlines and in our hearts. There's a nonprofit that's been working with Silicon Valley donors to help people there rebuild their lives. Brett Hagler, the CEO of News Story. So tell us about this charity.
Our first goal was literally one home. Could we fund one home in Levesque, Haiti? That was it.
We knew some things, but there was a lot that we didn't know. We just were resourceful.
We started to piece together the most important parts of News Story.
Brett with more of the fundraising, the marketing, Allie with the international development, and myself with more of the technology and the systems.
That just felt like such an incredible synergy.
And then we took a leap. We applied to the world's top startup accelerator, Y Combinator.
An amazing organization, incredibly sharp partners and network around it. We could probably learn a thing or two from them.
And we applied knowing that only about 1% to 2% of applicants actually make it in.
What's up, YC? I'm Brett.
Matthew.
I'm Allie, and we're the founding team of News Story.
Against all odds, we got in.
Before YC, every company has a call with one of their partners.
What the partners tell you to do is think about a seemingly impossible goal.
We wanted to do 100 homes over the course of the entire year. Then we said, because of that,
If we could do 50 houses in 100 days, that would be insane. And the first response was,
100 homes over the summer. Yeah, that sounds good.
That feels very impossible.
You're not here,
Just he
that
sharing
100
that.
homes in the
Kind of
year.
stumbling over our words.
It felt so clear to
He
him.
was like, all right, sounds good. We'll see you guys next week. Okay.
Allie's first response was,
Guys, I think he misunderstood. This seems very unreasonable.
Matthew was,
And it was so scary. But we then got to the drawing board and said, well, if we had to absolutely do this, if there was no choice,
3,
what would we do?
2, 1, liftoff. We have a liftoff.
3 young kids with no experience that have never done this before.
What might we have to do differently than we've done in the
What
past?
happens when you're forced to think big?
100 houses in 100 days.
How do we actually activate our donors?
And try to be efficient,
Think big, break down, execute.
effective.
Asking ourselves, what if? Could we?
100 homes is the goal. Let's get started right now.
We figured out a plan and we executed on that plan from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. every single day for 3 months. And we exceeded the goal.
It just got addicting, and we became even more passionate and excited about what could be and should be for the future.
Y Combinator was kind of a sprint to hit the 100 homes in 100 days goal. The season after was thinking, how do we take all of what we learned and develop a system around it?
Momentum begets momentum. More people got to know about us, and that led to more donations, and that led to more press.
It's an honor to be here as a startup charity.
That led to incredible talent wanting to work on our team.
We started to bring on our first team members, and while we were still very much underdogs, we had a chance to really scale this up, and that propelled us into the next couple years of going from just what was an idea to building an organization to impact over 1 million people that don't have safe housing.
So we started seeing early success, and it was exciting. But the further in we got, the more we realized we are not equipped to solve this gigantic problem. In fact, no one is. Let's do some quick math. According to the UN, there are 1.6 billion people currently living without safe shelter. Globally, the average number of humans per household is about 5. That means if no one else fell into homelessness, we'd need about 320 million homes to house everyone who needs one today. So even if we built 1,000 homes a day, every day, it would take 876 years to house everyone currently in need. And here's the thing, the UN expects these numbers to double in less than a decade. 3 billion people living without adequate housing. The more homes we built, the more clear it became, we don't just need more homes, we need better housing solutions. Exponentially faster, cheaper, and more innovative. And we need those solutions now.
In many other areas of social impact, the issue is incrementalism, and we just need to speed up. But in housing, we're not even incrementally solving the problem. It's growing at a massive rate.
And I think back to when I was growing up, how lucky I was to have basic human needs, where I didn't have to think about survival, not having a place to study or learn, which then enabled me to dream and to actualize my potential. What devastates me is knowing how creative, talented, smart all of these individuals are. They have the potential, but the opportunity is not there. They're just trying to survive.
If the global community keeps looking at the housing issue and turning toward easy, simple solutions instead of just grappling with the fact that this is expensive, it's very hard, but we have to keep our attention here. At the end of the day, it really just comes down to a personal moral compass and values. Can I accept a world where 3 billion people are without one of life's most basic needs? For me, the answer is no.
News Story realizes that pure philanthropy is not going to be the solution. We know governments are a player, we know social impact organizations are a player, but we need to achieve scale.
News Story being committed to pioneering solutions to end global homelessness, we really had to look out and see what other solutions were out there.
The question that we framed was, how do we innovate on the home costs and the speed without sacrificing quality?
Let's moonshot ideas here. Let's all act like we have $1 billion for a second.
And one of the ideas was 3D printing houses.
Could we play a role in potentially bringing that technology to the people who need it the most now? The founders of Icon, they cared deeply about the idea that their technology could be used for immense impact, and we formed a partnership. Together, we would build the first 3D printed community in the world.
We projected ourselves further into the future, knowing that there are going to be so many challenges and obstacles. If we can actually get it to work for the families that we're so passionate about, it would be a game changer.
When starting out, we were underdogs with a big dream. They said, stick to what works. Be more normal. But the way we think about that, normal doesn't create breakthroughs. And when there's 1 billion people in the world that don't have adequate shelter, we need breakthroughs.
3D printing houses is one amazing potential solution to the crisis we're facing. But to house everyone in need, we'll have to keep exploring and creating even more breakthroughs. Pioneering solutions is in our DNA at News Story.
News Story is exploring innovations that are affordable for the problems we're trying to solve.
If we care, we cannot ignore financing.
Microloans for housing.
How might we build a market-creating solution
For this population that is unbanked and often forgotten.
Qualitative improvements in housing,
Recycling the materials.
which will allow families to grow over time.
Is that possible?
Paint that reflects heat away from the home.
Can we do it?
Sanitation system that digests all of our organic material.
Thinking about all of the potential and the dreams that will unlock.
Once you unlock those barriers,
That creates a path to actually housing billions of people.
We believe everyone should be born into an environment that gives them the foundation to go after their dreams.
When I think about 3 billion people without housing, it really just comes down to what I think is right and what I think is possible. As a society, we know how to innovate and to do things faster and better. We put people on the moon, right? Like, we can build homes for everyone. We can do it with every single insurmountable feat that seemed impossible, but then was possible. It usually came down to a handful of people who just continue to beat the drum. That perseverance and the belief that someday we will get over this, and this cause is worthwhile enough that no matter how much I have to sacrifice or no matter how much my confidence wanes in certain periods, I'm gonna keep beating the drum. It's as simple as housing is a human right. We can't stop talking about it, and we can't stop working toward it until everyone has it. I mean, forget everything else. Imagine 3 billion people not being able to reach their potential. Now imagine if they did. Imagine if you did.